everyone wants to see that underdog story, and what a story it would be. At that point, it kind of just guarantees us that we're not going to be seeing Ground Zero at Major, but they can change that all right now. Game number 1 of this best of 5, and my oh my, do we have quite the series on our hands.
Yeah, this is certainly a nervous one for Ground Zero. I'm sure they're not feeling too nervous just yet, but if this first game doesn't go their way, they could certainly start to feel it, but it's also us making sure that they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, Torsos back on his horse yet again here. Not necessarily too surprising to see, and man, oh man, was that a surprising pass, though. Beautifully set up, and Ground Zero, 20 seconds into this, already have the lead.
Torsos not surprised by it, though. Just the bread and butter of Ground Zero, just incredibly fast, just following each other's touches, and you can see Antic weren't quite ready for that pace of play.
Not quite ready here, and unfortunately, they're going to need to get prepared very fast. I don't think that Ground Zero are going to give them much of a warm-up period here, so let's see if they can find themselves some sort of response to that early first goal. They do have an offense building here. Steve should have at least a touch. He doesn't find one, and Zuko can't really find much of a follow-up either, so Antic trying their best, throwing a lot at their opponents, but nothing sticking so far.
One thing we didn't mention early on, Ampha's actually missing one. You'd probably back him to hit there, but one thing we didn't mention is Ground Zero coming off a loss and Antic coming off a win. So, I mean, this could go two ways. Like, you would feel Antic is certainly feeling better as a team, but Ground Zero maybe a bit frustrated and just very ready to get out of that kind of slump they found themselves in.
Sometimes when you see teams in that slump, it leads them to kind of those pop-off plays. We've been talking about them all night. I don't think I'm going to consider that one necessarily a pop-off play, but maybe we see some solos at least. Amphis finds himself one here, but I'm going to say Zuko might have assisted that.
I think that was a pop-off. To Express slowly drive in and intimidate the other defender. I think that's a pretty sick play. Put it in the top plays.
Honestly, that's number 1 at this point. Double touch who? 90 seconds into this one, and Antic seemingly are still going back to the drawing board here. They've had a couple of decent chances, but I would say so far this has been pretty much all Ground Zero.
Yeah, it's looking, I mean, we saw Bliss kind of dominating the pressure against Antic, so you have to assume that Ground Zero will as well. I'm really looking for these counterattacks, which almost start. Their Delusion not quite able to get the read, but the follow-up's there, but Amp is coming from the goalpost to save that as well.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. A great way to sort of shake off the rust, if you will, for Antic Esports, but not quite able to do so. At least they'll get another offense together here. Steve tries to get something off the backboard, but instead it's sent the other way, and Antic have to retreat into defense once again. We've talked about this a lot today, Jake, but really the sustained pressure is something Antic need to find.
Yeah, Antic, they've just struggled. It feels like they're a very confidence-driven team. When they're feeling good, they push up very far forward. When they're not, they don't have the numbers forward to kind of maintain that pressure that you can see Ground Zero doing just through aggression.
And Ground Zero doing a really good job at finding the consistency they may not have found earlier in this day. I kind of want to go back and watch that series of them versus Wildcard, because I have so many questions, especially considering it was a 3-0. And then all of a sudden they come back in this game and they're just immediately out the gates firing 2-0, holding on to that lead for quite some time. Now even building yet another offense. Really, Ground Zero finding that turnaround that was necessary.
Yeah, I mean, they just look like good old Ground Zero here, so just more impressive for Wildcard. But at the same time, in a best of 5, a 3-0 can go by so quickly. It's just 15 minutes, not playing your best, and then you're just out of the series completely. So maybe Ground Zero just had a bad little stint, and that they've picked themselves back up for this.
Well, they know about bad little stints. They unfortunately gave one to Renegades when they found them at the land. So maybe, you know, it's just a little bit of karma justice, or whatever how you want to call it at this point. And well, Justice is going to find themselves back to Ground Zero once again with 90 seconds remaining, and Antic really struggling to even find a solid shot.
There we go.
Wait a minute. I'm going to eat my words. Suko, what on earth?
Yeah, deciding to miss the open net for the more impressive backboard pass here was Steve. Really nicely followed there by Zuko, being the goal scorer for them again.
Well, why hit an open net when you can make a cool shot? You know, the CJ mentality, if you will. 90 seconds left here. Maybe that mentality can carry them to a victory, or at least in overtime. They're starting to get some decent offense together here, but they still need to break that Ground Zero defense as well. They also need to not concede a goal here. Torsos, cross-court dagger.
Oh, just so textbook for Torsos here. Beautiful pass from Express, but Steve, you really need to be hitting that at the highest level, especially when you're coming up against Torsos.
especially when you're trying to just build any sort of momentum. It takes you almost 4 minutes of play to finally get your first goal and to break this Ground Zero offense. And then all of a sudden, Ground Zero is back to a 2-goal lead. Unfortunately for Antic, they can't seem to find any favor here, and it might get further away from them as another goal is looming, but it will not find the back of the net. Barely holding on is Antic Esports.
Yeah, almost crazy own goal there from Delusion. Antic somehow pulling off the 2v4 there. But Ground Zero, healthy lead, but we have seen Antic. They did miss a counterattack opportunity before. It could be a closer game right now, but you have to be favoring Ground Zero to close this one out.
You have to imagine so. With just underneath 50 seconds left, barring a miracle, Antic are going to have to look towards the back half of this series, or I guess not even the back half, just game number 2. But I think they really do have to be looking at the long run here, because if they continue to give more momentum to Ground Zero, they're just going to run away with this thing.
Yeah, it's tough in this situation looking forward to them. Do they try and commit to like a counterattack kind of sit-back play style, or do they try and get their foot in the pressure? We saw they can do it, it doesn't seem to flow consistently for them.
Yeah, consistency really has been king here today, and I honestly do think consistency is king at pretty much all levels of RL. And apparently Ground Zero seem to know that. They are 10 seconds away from finding themselves a pretty dominant game number 1 victory. Yes, Antic do get a goal, but it doesn't really feel like at any point during this game that Ground Zero were uncomfortable. And speaking of which, on the line save is going to be enough to keep this at a 3-1 score line. Maybe not. Express and Amphis actually taking this the other way. No way. Oh my word, Torsos.
Yeah, beautiful fast play. They're certainly back to, form in their offense, passing to each other nicely, finishing very quickly. You can see Steve again just not respecting the kind of, fast finishing that Torsos brings to the table.
Yeah, that was, let's call that speedy play, to put it simply. And that's more to give Antic a little bit of a reprieve here. Not the greatest game out of this Antic squad, but we've got a long series ahead of us. A best of 5, and Antic do have the time to try and pull this one back, but they need to play a little bit more consistently.
We still have Zuko absolutely topping the stats for his team. Again, the new player coming in, so great to see that confidence, but it was really Steve who was that really big pop-off player for them last split, and overall he's had a pretty quiet day.
He's had a relatively quiet day, I would agree 100%. I do feel like part of it is, when we spoke to Antic, they talked about how they weren't really going through, or excuse me, not spoke to Antic, when we spoke to their opponents earlier today, it was kind of that one-off play that sort of separated teams, and it feels like Antic are kind of doing the same. They're switching in between that sort of, okay, let's play as a team, and then let's play as a single player. It's what was the downfall of Forkitten, in my opinion, and it could be the downfall of Antic. They need to find a more concise strategy here, because it's a little too chaotic for my liking.
Yeah, maybe they're a bit scarred from when they were trying to pass a little too much and passing behind their teammates. It's so tough though, like Ground Zero. We saw it with Juice Bandits against Goose earlier. It's when you come up against these fast, aggressive teams, you can't play the playstyle you came in wanting to do.
Especially if you're going to make minor mistakes. Fast play styles are really good against those minor mistakes because they're just quick enough to punish. And I think that's something we're seeing right now, is that Antic are just not prepared for the speed at which Ground Zero are punishing right now. They're taking advantage of every single little play, and as a result, they're even getting goals to go for the road here. This is a perfect example of one minor mistake, and then Ground Zero get it all the way to the other end and score.
And I'll tell you what, Bass, this always happens when one of the big teams in OCE, they get upset. We're like, wow, let's check them out. And then you watch the series and they're just looking as awesome as ever. And it's like what happened? And we're kind of seeing that here with Ground Zero again. They're just looking like their normal, aggressive, fast, mechanical, clinical selves. And you got to feel for Antic. That's hard to come up against.
Yeah, you really do, especially considering the fact that Antic, they're not playing poorly right now. It's just, unfortunately, they're not playing perfectly. And if you can't play that way against Ground Zero, they really are going to punish you. Let's see if they can do it here in game number 2, though. Antic trying to avoid letting their opponents get onto match point already. It's not going to be an easy task. At least they've got some offense together here, but it's very short-lived. Steve will try and keep this one going, and as Torsos misses, there's an opportunity, but no one going to get a touch. Unfortunate for Antic.
I don't know what happened there. They just kind of hit the ball very sadly forward, and just nothing happened, but they're getting a second chance again, but you can see how nice Ground Zero are at passing out at defense, and they instantly get rewarded for it.
I looked away for about a half a second to check my stat sheet, and then all of a sudden, it's in the back of the net. Amphis out of midfield corner pocket. I don't even know what to call that shot.
Yeah, because you don't see it much. It's a pretty crazy angle from Amphis, and it's not what you wanted for an Antic fan. Ground Zero getting the lead again.
Ground Zero kind of doing Ground Zero stuff so far here. Again, early leads for Ground Zero seemingly have been giving them confidence to run throughout a game. The question is whether or not it's going to be able to do so again here in game number 2. Antic are starting to get some defense or some decent offense together. This should be a shot. Steve, can anyone get there? Zuko, maybe double touch?
Whoa!
Yes, he will. Back of the net. Beautiful shot.
It's again Antic. They don't like scoring the easy way. They don't like the easy banger. It's the slow double touch for Zuko, but again, really nice mechanics coming out of him to shine for his team.
Maybe they're doing this intentionally at this point. Steve knows that if he tries to shoot on target, it's just not going in, so he's putting it off and then letting Zuko finish it. Listen, it's not a strategy I would advise, but hey, if it works, it works, and for right now, it is. Antic have tied up game number 2 here and are trying to just keep it close with Ground Zero. But unfortunately, Ground Zero, I don't think they're going to give up quite yet. They are already back on the prowl.
Yeah, Ground Zero, I don't think Antic are going to be feeling too comfortable. They've tied it up. It was really important to not let that game run away from them, but Ground Zero, they just feel so dangerous as soon as they have the ball.
And Ground Zero, they're just a very threatening team, even from scenarios where you think they can't create anything. They do in just a matter of moments. They're trying to do so right now, though. They're just trying to break out of their half. Antic really getting some good pressure here, and they'll keep it going. Steve out of midfield, decent boost in the tank. Can he get a shot? Only a 50-50, and Delusion waiting in the wings should be able to keep this alive. But Ground Zero, despite a lot of offensive pressure, looking pretty confident on defense.
Yeah, Antic really aren't showing too much too threatening. It's certainly improvement to see them starting to pressure Ground Zero, but it's really on those counterattacks where we see them really threatening the net. Oh, except maybe a crazy dunk out of nowhere, but how did that not go in?
Steve, oh boy, apparently there's always going to be someone in OCE who doesn't know how to score an open net. I thought it was CJ. CJ has decidedly given that title over to Steve now for the day. Steve, that is what, his 3rd missed open net?
That was something else. I don't know how he did that, and then they instantly get punished, which honestly they deserve. That was crazy. I don't even know how he did that.
I'm impressed, honestly, and I don't think I should be impressed. I should more be impressed by that bump in the net. Amphis just decimating the defense there to give Ground Zero that 2-1. But Antic, it really does feel like they should be up 2-1 right now.
They really should, and that is so disappointing. Every chance matters so much when you're the underdogs like they are here, so I hope Antic can pick themselves up after that and get the goal they were somehow not able to get then.
Oh no, is this one in? Yes, indeed it is. Express hits the upper corner, and unfortunately, we've seen this before. One bad goal can all of a sudden just shake the mentality of the team, and as we see what is basically a triple commit out at midfield. Not going great, Jake.
What a beautiful shot from Express, though. Just from the midfield line, just perfectly getting a top corner, and honestly, he needed that or else it wasn't in.
That's very true. The good thing is that Ground Zero aren't necessarily getting easy goals against Antic here. They really are making Antic run and work for their money. But 2 minutes remaining, I think they need to do more than that. Antic need to find themselves at least a lead here, because I don't know if a reverse sweep is possible, but it's definitely not possible when you haven't been able to find a solid lead the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a crazy day today, but you don't... I mean, if Ground Zero go 2 up in the series, you know what's going to happen. So Antic, they're going to be wanting to turn this one around, but there's only 2 minutes left remaining to still get 2 goals just to tie it up. So they're in a very difficult spot.
And it's also got to be so frustrating, the fact that they're going to basically be a single game away, or series, excuse me, from being in the money. Again, top 8 are what walk home with cash prizes here at this point. And so for Antic, they basically get within a series if they lose to Ground Zero here. It's got to be a little bit disappointing, but hey, Antic, you still did a really good job here. The fact of the matter is, you made it to playoffs, you did a good job playing against some really solid teams, and it's not quite done yet. Yes, it's 3-1 here. I'm not sure if they've got the ability for the comeback here, but maybe they can get that reverse sweep, or at least give a good attempt.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. They've had chances. They've had a few counterattacks. You can see there, that was a good opportunity, but just not quite as clinical as they need to be.
not quite clinical yet, but oh, there could be a chance here for Ground Zero maybe to just close out this game. They get another 4-1 score line. I can definitely say they are taking this one. With 50 seconds left, it seems like Antic aren't quite giving up yet. They still want to try and fight for this one. And if they can get a second goal with enough time left, it is possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. 40 seconds left. They need something pretty soon, and I don't think Ground Zero are going to let them get it. Amphis is starting to even have some fun with the ball with a crazy redirect to himself there.
Well, that would have been something spectacular. It's a heck of a way to end a game, but I think the game's going to end no matter what. 25 seconds left, and despite their best efforts, Antics have not been able to find a second goal here. They've thrown everything at their opponents, but again, Ground Zero, I think you were right when you said this earlier, Jake. It does kind of feel like they're just a little bit mad about their last loss. The aggression we're seeing here. Oh my, oh my.
Mixture of mad and bored, so, hard to tell which one it was, but it's a recipe for Ground Zero to play very solidly and, shut out Antic for these first two games, at least to get their game on the board.
And boy, did they ever.
Look, Torsos is sleeping, man. These guys do not think they're in the lower bracket right now. They're chilling.
What if they know that they're in the lower bracket? They're like just probably thought they lost the game and we're like, oh, okay, so great, now it's playoff time or whatever, and then just kind of, ran with it at this point because that's about as comfortable as they look here. It really does feel like Ground Zero are just playing this like another day at the office.
Yeah, Torsos is just thinking, one more win, then we're out of Swiss. Maybe we'll have to play Renegades in the semis. That's annoying, but no, completely different format here. But I don't know. I mean, the attitude's working. They're playing great.
They're playing fantastic at this point, and it really does feel just unfortunate for Antic at this point because they are such a solid squad, and I don't think that this is completely representative of how they are able to play. It's just kind of unfortunate. You don't really expect in the first round of the lower bracket to run into the former regional champions. So, hey, listen, man, short straw comes up every once in a while, and for Antic here today, they really did draw it.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing promising signs, and they're not just out just yet. Zuko is still incredibly impressive all day. We still know Steve, great player last split, so still possibly hiding some impact in him as well. So eyes on those two players to, especially for Zuko, just continue popping off and getting the goals they need.
I'd love to see them get an early lead here in game number 3. It could really shake the momentum that Ground Zero has been building throughout this series. But again, it's not really up to Ground Zero. It's not really up to anybody but Antic Esports to get this one done. They get an early goal here. They can start that comeback potential. That's a lot easier said than done, so let's see if they can. Steve immediately starting off with an offense, but boy, oh boy, is that short-lived.
Yep, straight back to the other half, but you just see it almost looks like Antic are going to get control of the ball, but Ground Zero just so confident, even with no boost to make a play happen. Torsos almost getting everyone out of the game.
That's why I say I think Torsos is just a little bit mad. Normally, I don't think Torsos is going for that one with 0 boost, but when you're aggressive and ready to get in the face of your opponents, yeah, Torsos is going to go after that one. Luckily enough, it's not going to punish them as the counterattack from Antic never really arrives 30 seconds into this one, and Amphis looking like he might actually have the first real offense of this game for Ground Zero. Maybe not. Kind of just back and forth here. Neither team really finding a good offense yet.
You're right. It's like Torsos. He's looking a bit mad. He's just been playing incredibly quick, not super fancy, although that's pretty nice flip reset pass to himself. On the other hand, we have Amphis going for, all those air dribbles he loves off the wall. So Ground Zero looking very confident, but it's still 0-0 at the moment. Antic haven't got scored on just yet. Express getting a big demo, but it doesn't lead to a goal.
Oh, that could have been something special. A heck of a way to open up the score line here. Because at this point, this is probably the most amount of time we've gone without a goal in these games. Just over a minute played, and I might have cursed it, but not if Torsos puts it off target. Steve cursed earlier with the ability to not hit an open net. Now it's Torsos's turn.
That was a tough one, though. Torsos is coming in very quick. Not quite able to get on it, but that's just going to make him more mad fast. I think he's going to get on soon.
Whew. Immediately challenging as that water falls off the ceiling there. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. Amphis trying to play a little bit angry as well, getting in the way of his opponents, but able to get the shot on target. But man, Ground Zero, yeah, they really did up the pace here. They're getting in the face of Antic every single play.
You can see Antic still threatening on the counterattack, trying to get that pass, but Ground Zero compose themselves very quickly to shut that down.
Ooh, but they might have overcommitted there. That's all 3 of their players into offense. So Steve's got some time and space. He gets the bump. Can they get the follow-up? No. Saved by Steve! No!
I'm not sure if that was in, but I hope it wasn't.
I really hope not, man. I really hope not. This is, man, everything that could have gone wrong for Antic in this series, it kind of has.
Yeah, Antic, I mean, just today, right? They got the tough group, they got the tough first matchup, and now they've had 2 goals that have just not gone in the net when they really needed it.
Oh, it's gotta hurt. You know what, Antic, I hope you guys do look back at this one, though, and are at least proud of your performance. Yes, it's not necessarily as clean-cut as you might have wanted, but again, you drew the short straw. When you draw that short straw, it's about taking the wins where you can get them, and the fact that you were even able to keep a close series against Ground Zero when it counted, i.e. getting to this third game, and oh my word! I was gonna say keeping it close, but speaking of keeping it close, Amph is about as close to the wall as he can for this double tap.
I was gonna say, you're talking like they've already lost, and I guess you just saw that coming, because Anthus, that is an insanely difficult read to get with the ball flying from behind him over his head, so you're looking at the ceiling, and he just somehow knows exactly where to float.
Unfortunately for me, it's not necessarily looking ahead. It's just sort of the same thing we, oh my word, said before. Good example there. It never felt like Ground Zero were out of this game or did not have the advantage.
No.
What do we even say at this point?
Oh, Zuko, he's been playing so well. Honestly, looked like that was in. Really tough miss for him, and they need to find a similar opportunity, but I don't think Ground Zero are going to give it to them in a minute and a half left.
Oh, no. Dude, this hurts.
Oh,
no. Well, Ground Zero, I think, found their form again.
I don't see where they lost it. I think Wildcard might just be playing nuts. Might be about to win the whole tournament. And Ground Zero just, been playing well, but it wasn't enough for the crazy new dynasty that will be Wildcard.
Apparently so. Wildcard, I guess we'll just have Formal come on to cast tomorrow. He can explain to us how the new super team in OCE has arrived in Wildcard. Because apparently they took down a Ground Zero, which don't really look that off. They basically decimated their opponents here in this series. 4-1 victory, 3-1 victory, and now they're eyeing up a 2-0 shutout to end this series. But Antic, we gotta keep some faith. You guys can get this one done. All you need is one good goal to get this comeback started.
Yeah, they need one quick, and I think Ground Zero are just gonna keep pushing them into their own half, not let them out. You can see they're quick to every challenge. Antic, they're just not able to get those solid, quick breaks that they need.
That's a little bit unfortunate. I really do feel like maybe on a different day we'd see a bit of a closer series, but unfortunately for Antic, they never really found their footing here in this one, never able to take a solid lead. And as a result, Ground Zero just got more and more confident as we played further and further into this one, evident by a shot like that there. 25 seconds left, and I think Ground Zero are looking to close this one out.
Yeah, Ground Zero looking solid. 20 seconds left. Antic, they need a miracle, but Ground Zero looks like they're just going to get one in the goal. Not quite, but it's not looking good.
Oh, Amph, what a beautiful pass. That's just gorgeous. Torasauce finishes it off and really finishes off the series as well. 9 seconds left, and at this point, we can call it. Antic, unfortunately, going out round one a loser.
You're right. What a beautiful pass there from Amphis. Not really known for his great passing, so pretty great to see from them. Yeah, maybe barring we forget about that wildcard series, I am hoping we've seen some improvements coming out of Ground Zero. Long off season, they went to the major. They've been able to think about their performance, and I'm hoping to see them come back stronger.
You gotta hope so, but the good thing is they did have a pretty strong performance here. Ground Zero will take the win in this first lower bracket matchup. But again, this is not the end of their road, not by a long shot. If they want to try and make it into that top 5, they've got to be one of only 2 teams to make it there. So, Jake, this was an impressive